My name is Nick Anasich, and I am the Farm School Program Manager here at CDFA. I'm very grateful for all of you for joining today, and I'm just super excited to be going through this information with everyone. We love it. Thank you to Amy Garfinkel on my team and Rachel Finkus for helping set up and organize these calls. We're expecting hundreds of people today. And I'm excited for that. And then thank you also to our CDFA Farm to School team that's in the chat. You might see a regional staff member in there. I just saw Jane introduced herself. I saw Pamela Lee, our North Coast person, is in there. So lots of partners in the chat and excited for that space. So today we have a Q&A session that we're going to go through. I have a couple slides just to set the tone, share some basic foundational information. Should be just like 5 minutes of me talking. And then we're just going to go into Q&A. So we're excited about that. An important thing to note here is that this call is being recorded and this will be posted online, correct? The questions? Yeah. So if there's any questions people have, you can put them in the chat. Hi, and Lizzie is here, our new Bay Area regional lead. Hi, Lizzie. And any questions that people have, once we get into the Q&A portion after the presentation, there's different ways that you could submit it, depending on how comfortable you are to have your face on a recording. So we got that going. Okay, so here's the resources. The first and most important one is our Farm to School grant program webpage. And we're gonna look at that together here in a second. The second one is a link to our grant info session recording. So that recording goes over all the details of all 4 grant tracks. This session is really just about questions and answers. And Amy just put both of those links in the chat for you to explore also. So if you're looking for like a, man, I wish somebody would give me an in-depth question or an in-depth presentation on what's happening with this grant. That's what the recording is for. And then you could skip ahead to the parts that just you want to know. And then we have the webpage, like I said, that we are going to go through. Okay, the next thing I have is an eligibility decision tree. So this will be in the slide deck that will be posted online also, so you can have access to this. And it just shows, and it already is posted on the webpage also, but it just shows at the top, I'm using my finger to point as if you could see it, but across the top, there's the public school district. It says, who are you? What do you want to do? And here's what you're eligible to apply for. So if you have eligibility, and Amy just put it in the chat also. So if you want to explore that and see if you're eligible or not, we have that as a tool there also. Maze, I see you have a question here on eligibility for daycare providers. Great one, look at track 3 there. And you'll find your info. Okay. Next thing is how to apply. Every application portal is linked right here in this deck. So if you want to apply to track 1, then you just click track 1. It'll take you right to that portal and you can get going. Same for any of these tracks here. Our online application system is called Amplifund. And if you're having any issues with Amplifund, please email us ASAP and we can work with you to get those solved. Okay, here's how we can help you, and here's what we can't do to help you. So here's what we can do. We can answer questions about the grant via email in these weekly Q&A sessions. That's what we're here for. We can introduce producers and schools or support organizations. So if you're a school and you're like, dang, I want to find an organic farmer in my area to write them into my grant, we can help make that connection for you. Or if you're an organic farmer and you're like, hey, are any schools interested in partnering for this grant? We can help make those connections. It's no guarantee that it will work, but we can help make those. And then last, we can provide technical support for the online application portal in Amplifund. So again, if you're having any issues with the Amplifund portals, and Amy linked to them in the chat here, if you're having any issues with those, please just email us right away. Here's the things we're not allowed to do. We're not allowed to like pre-read your application and let you know if it's going to get the grant. We won't even know because we have to see all of the apps in order to score them. So we can't provide specific feedback on a grant project. So if you're like, hey, should I do this or this or this? We're going to ask, what do you think is best for your organization? When you look at the scorecard, which is posted online, what do you think is going to score the best? That's a decision for you to make for your org. We just don't know. And then we can't assist with writing the grant or reviewing your grant. So we can basically help you with anything else that you're getting stuck on. If you're like, hey, what's this question actually mean? That's a perfect thing for us to support. Okay, And I think next is just questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to share our web page really quickly, just so you can see all the information that's on there. If you're like me, you're probably going to spend 8,000 hours on this grant webpage while you're filling out the grant. And so it will be good to have a little lay of the land. So up top is just, hey, we're giving out 52 million bucks. It's pretty awesome, right? Then we have a estimated timeline. So information here, if you're looking at like, oh, what should I put for the projected timeline for my grant? You know, you can pull that from here, that'd be great. And then we have the basics. Apply to the grant program. If you want to apply to the grant, you click that, and then you can click the track. If you want to see the scorecard, which is how your grant application will be judged, every single question and how it will be scored is right here. So you could pull that up and have it open in another window while you're filling out the grant to make sure that you're answering in alignment with the scores. The 4 funding tracks accordion just shows you what the names are in case it's getting confusing across the different tracks. The application resources and letter of intent for track 4 are just right there. Application resources and letter of intent. We tried to label them and make them as clear as possible. So all of that information is there. That's where the eligibility decision tree lives for folks that had questions on that. The letter of intent template for farms, if they had questions there, and then a worksheet tool. If you want to work on your budget and need support with that, we have a tool there for you. Lastly, questions and answers. And this is going to be at the end. We're going to highlight it a bunch. But if you run out of time here and you have additional questions, please email them to this email address right here, cafarmtoschool@cdfa.ca.gov. So you don't have to wait for us each week to answer questions live and then wait your turn on the call. You can just email us and then we'll post all of those answers. And then last, if there's any other questions that people have for the info session or weekly Q&As, you can sign up for all of these. Here's the slide deck. Here's that has all the information about the grant. Here's the recording of the info session, which is that really detailed look at the program. And then here's all the different Zoom sessions that we have. If you wanted to, you could register for all of them right now, or you could save it and just join the ones that you need. Okay, so that is it for the web page. Again, I think the most important things are, here's the links to apply, and then here's the email address, and it's also over here. So if you're stuck, if you have questions, you know where to go. Okay, stopping sharing that, and then we're gonna go into questions. So there's options here for how you want to do this. You can go at the bottom of Zoom, you can go to reactions and raise a hand, and you can raise a hand. We're gonna go through the hands, and then after that, we're gonna go over to the chat and start answering questions now. So I saw that there's a few questions already that have come through the chat. Hi, Elizabeth. I'm gonna come to you in 1 second. Let me just get through the chat here and make sure we got those easy ones. Marina asked, can we buy a vegetable fruit dicer or a washer? For sure, definitely. Just explain it in your budget why you need it. Are there any schools in San Diego? Jenny will follow up with you and make some connections. Maze, we talked about that one. Cecily, that's an eligibility, so check out the decision tree. Victoria had a question on introducing schools with producers. Yeah, definitely. Email us and we'll make that happen. Okay, and then Stacy had a question on, are we awarding grants to the highest scores? Yes, and then what we're going to do is make sure they're separated out geographically, and we're taking each track on its own basis. So like, kind of. It really depends on each track that it's in is going to be scored against its own track. Yeah. And then it says Pamela, but I actually think that's Lori in the chat. So Lori, we'll get to that one in a sec. Okay, Elizabeth, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, great. Thank you for hosting this.
Of course.
Hey, we just had a question. So I'll just recap. We're a nonprofit organization and we have a great partnership going with our local school district. And so the district is planning on applying for track 1 and would like to subcontract with our organization to provide, the education programs and to provide some education programs and help build teacher capacity and work with food services. And so my question is, it seems like the RFP is, prioritizing or focusing on kind of building capacity within schools to do that work, which we totally get. And then also our reality on the ground is that our nonprofit is very involved in the partnership, and helping to build that capacity with the schools long term. So anyway, all that to say, is that kind of in-depth partnership with a nonprofit allowed under track 1, and especially if they're subcontracting with us for a chunk of money?
Yes. So you're a nonprofit urban farm. So the school in track 1, if they're applying, they could write you in as a contractor. That would be totally okay, as long as they just got to fill it out in their application and put your information as a contractor, put you as part of the team, all that stuff. And then the farm would still be eligible to apply in track 4 if you wanted to. It's just you can only be the lead applicant in one track. So that would totally be okay to be listed as a contractor in track 1 and then to apply on your own in track 4 if you want to do that. Amy, anything else to flag? Amy is our technical expert on the grant from CDFA's side. So I always go to Amy after, make sure we covered it all. Okay, nothing else. Nailed it. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Let us know if there's anything else.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, Laura or Laura?
Laura.
Laura, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, quick question. I currently work at a school that is a public-private school, and it serves children 2 to 5. Would I best apply under track 1 or track 3? Would it be?
This is a great question.
Yeah.
And we thought when we started the grant that everything was going to be so cut and dried, so great.
Yeah.
And of course, it's like extremely messy. So I think it would be best if you emailed us, like put a link to your, what is it, a district? Public-private school? Put a link to that info. And then
Okay.
I think you already sent a question to us, but you could send us a link to your webpage
Okay.
and just let us know how it's structured, and then we'll give guidance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Nick, is it okay if I chime in on the questions about family childcare homes?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I see a few of these in the chat, and these are such great questions. So first, there are a few components. So first, unfortunately, family childcare homes are not eligible to apply in track 3. There are 2 types of eligible entities in track 3. One is childcare centers, and another is farm to ECE, or farm to early care and education, technical assistance organizations. So we have definitions of those 2 different types of eligible entities for track 3 in the definitions section of the RFA. So I'll link to that section of the RFA if you want to read those definitions in depth. But essentially for family childcare homes, while they're not eligible to apply directly to track 3, there is a way for family childcare homes to participate in track 3 of the grant program. And that is if they are a project partner with a farm to ECE technical assistance organization that is eligible to apply to track 3. So basically, and I hope this isn't getting confusing, so please ask follow-ups if it is. But basically, a farm to ECE technical assistance organization, an example could be a nonprofit or a First Five or a child care resource and referral agency or a CACFP sponsor of centers or daycare homes. So there's a whole list of types of eligible farm to ECE technical assistance organizations that are eligible. They're eligible as long as they provide support to ECE providers in California. And as part of their application, they are required to include at least 2 ECE sites as project partners in the application. And ECE sites that can be eligible as project partners include childcare centers and include family childcare homes and include family friend and neighbor or FFN settings. So if you're a family childcare home and you're interested in participating in the grant program, that would be a way to participate, is to work with an eligible farm to ECE organization, and the farm to ECE organization would be the one to apply. And then they could include you as one of their ECE partner sites. So I hope that helps. And please let us know if there are follow-up questions about that piece.
Thank you. And Amy, if you could actually pull up that slide from the info session, I think visually having it available there. Basically what we're trying to do is that this would be so much administration for a single family home center to deal with. because it's a government grant, it's very difficult. So what we're hoping to do is to find somebody to help with all the admin. So we'll pull up that slide so that there's a visual element for you to see, because I'm a visual person and I prefer that. So basically, if you're a home center, like Amy was describing, you have to get a partner. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to the hands while she pulls that up. And then we're going to come back to the chat, because if we're doing chat and hands, it's going to get real messy real fast. It's going to be wild. Okay. Regina, I had you next. Welcome. Are you there, Regina? Can you hear us? It says you're on mute. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Okay, I do have a question. Our center is on the food program. And if we are applying for this grant, how does it work together?
Okay, this is a good question. So Amy's going to pull up the image to show. You're a home care center? Or you're an EC, early childhood center?
So yeah, let me pull this up. And okay, here we go. So this is a slide from the info session. And Regina, thank you so much for your questions. So if your organization is a childcare center and you meet this criteria in this right-hand side of the definition, then you would be eligible to apply to track 3 as a childcare center. And it sounds like your center operates the Child and Adult Care Food Program, CACFP. Did I hear that right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, so that's wonderful. So childcare centers that operate CACFP are eligible to apply, as are childcare centers that do not operate CACFP. Yeah, so either way, you'd be eligible to apply to track 3 as long as you're a childcare center that meets this criteria under the definition.
Thank
So
you.
a follow-up question here. So I am a daycare provider. I run my facility from my home, and I have this food program. So I'm enrolled with the county's food program. So will I apply for this funding, or do I need their assistant, my food program specialist assistants, to fill the application on my behalf? How this work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is it Jagdeep? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for joining in for that question. So if you're a family childcare home, then that's correct. You would not be eligible to apply directly to track 3, unfortunately, but you would then look over to this side of the screen, Farm to ECE Technical Assistance Organizations, and see if you know any of these types of entities. So perhaps you know a CACFP sponsor organization, or a nonprofit organization, or a county.
I know first 5. I know
You know
first
First
5
Five?
Alameda County. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that could be an organization to reach out to see if they have interest in applying, because a First 5 County Commission would be eligible to apply to track 3 as a Farm to EC Technical Assistance Organization. And then they would have to include at least 2 ECE sites, which could include a family child care home, as project partners in their application. And then if they are applying and they include your family child care home as a partner site, then you would then provide them with a letter of support for their application as part of the track 3 application. So yeah, that could be a way for a family child care home to participate. Absolutely.
Thanks.
And if the technical assistants, if they refused to include as a partner, then what will happen in that case?
That's a good question. I'm sorry, I didn't see who said it, but thanks so much for asking. So yeah, so if a Farm to EC Technical Assistance Organization, and we'll keep going in this example, like a First 5 County Commission applies, then their project is it's like all of these components. Let me see if I can go back a few slides. So these are the components of a track 3 project. So the Farm to ECE Technical Assistance Organization would need to apply to do both of these things: procure California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods for incorporation into meals, snacks, and our food boxes for young children, especially from these types of producers. And they would have to engage young children in hands-on food education opportunities, especially standards aligned and culturally relevant, etc. So these would be like the main components of a track 3 project. And so if it's a Farm to ECE TA organization applying, then they would be working with their partner sites, such as a family childcare home or childcare centers, to implement these activities. So they would be, helping their partner sites to procure and incorporate this type of food into their meal or snack program or food box program. And they would be working with those partner sites to engage young children at the sites in hands-on food education opportunities. And so, in the project budget, it can include costs like procuring this type of food. It can include costs like supplies, for example, for a garden program, in order to achieve this element. So the budget is pretty flexible in terms of allowable costs. And one type of allowable cost in all 4 tracks actually is mini grants. So that is an option if that is something that a project would like to do. So in track 3, that could look like a Farm to ECE TA organization, allocating funds via mini grants to its partner sites. And there are some other details about mini grants that we could get into later if there are more questions about that. But does that help with your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was still curious why we cannot directly apply for this grant.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to jump in first, Amy, if you're able to stop sharing so we could get everyone's faces on here. First, we're going to ask you to come off mute when you have a question. There's going to be over 100-something people on this call. And if we're all just chiming in, then it's going to cause chaos. So first, let's pause there. If you have questions on ECE eligibility, if you have questions on the design of the grant program, all of those things are covered in the info session that is recorded in detail and available for you to watch at any time. And then our inbox is there. As I said earlier, we designed this grant so that in-home centers get the support that they need to implement these initiatives. It is a lot of administration. And so it's designed in a way that if you're a single home site and you're not eligible as your own center from that slide, then you have to apply with a partner. We went through a robust public comment period and got tons of comments and adjusted and updated our grant based on all of those comments. So if this is something that you feel like should be fixed in the future so that individual home sites like yours can apply on their own, then we would love to hear that feedback in an email and get it in writing so that we can use it to change the grant in future years when future funding is applied. So right now, like anything on changing the rules of the grant or changing the design of the grant, fortunately, we just can't change that at this time. So if you have other questions about it, I really encourage you to go to the info session and really encourage you to email us. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just going to have to redo the info session again right here live, and we'll be here another hour. So, okay. Okay. So I'm going to go back into the hands, and then we're going to go into the chat after. Okay, so next one I have is Stacy Manuel. Welcome, Stacy.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I had a question. I think part of it got answered because we are family childcare, but we are in the process of expanding to a center. And so we have the land already and we're working on that. So would we still not be eligible because it's not up and running yet?
I think it depends on the timing. Amy, do you know about the timing?
Like if perhaps they're going to be a center during the application period.
Yeah, do you know when you will officially become a center?
No, we're in the process of getting all of that approved and having, because it's being built out. So right now we purchased land. And so this is what we do. We have a farm and garden at our family childcare, and we're going to be doing that as a center as well. So it's just not up and running yet. And we don't have a license for that part yet, just our family childcare license.
Yeah, Amy?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stacey, and congrats on all that stuff. That sounds exciting. I think, yeah, if you're not going to be a child care center during the application period, then unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible to apply. But as a family child care home, you could explore the avenue of partnering with a Farm TEC technical assistance organization.
Okay, and then I heard you say about mini grants being included as part of the, is there a max on the amount that they would be able to do as a mini grant?
There's no max. An important thing to keep in mind with mini grants, as you know, if there is a grantee who is distributing mini grants, would just be that the recipient of the mini grant has to follow all of the same allowable and unallowable costs of the grant program, as well as like documenting how they're using the funds, just as the grant recipient does. But yeah, there's no max on the size of the mini grant, like within the grant award amount.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Robert, welcome.
Greetings, thank you. Let me pull over to my notes here.
Yeah.
Let's see. For projects like ours that operate in multiple locations, is it more beneficial to submit a single consolidated application covering both sites, or should we apply separately for each location to address specific community needs and objectives? There would be two completely different communities, but you know, two counties next to each other.
Yeah, are you talking about track 4?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, it would just be, you are allowed to do one application per business. What is it, Amy, your tax ID?
Yeah, per unique tax ID number.
Yeah, so if you've separated your business into 2 different ones, then you could apply twice, but otherwise it's just one per business.
Okay, and is there any issues, like say we did under one entity that we covered both places under the grant? How would our budget affect our budget? Like, would we have to allocate certain funds to each project separately?
Up to you. Whatever you feel like is most effective and needed. Yeah.
Got it. I appreciate it. And then that you said there's an email I can write in questions, because I'm going to be helping our local school district write for track 1.
Yeah.
And then I had a question actually about track 1 and track 2. They're both for schools. Is one more for procurement for the food and the education around that, and then the others for actual projects at the school?
Track 1 is the one for public school districts. So track 1 is procurement and education together. So they have to have a procurement element and an education element, and then they will apply to implement those things. They can write in contractors for help if they want to, and all of that sort of thing. So that's where school districts would apply. Track 2 is for technical assistance. So it's more for nonprofit orgs and that sort of thing. So if you're working with the school district, it'll probably be track 1.
Got it. And if I have a nonprofit organization that I work with where the farm is located. So if they wanted to have some like infrastructure improvements to allow kids to come in and stuff like that, could they apply individually?
It really depends on the specific one. Track 2 is more about TA. So I'd say check it out in the application. You can look at the questions and you can look at the purpose and then decide kind of what's best for you guys. And the most important thing I would say is if you're looking at, all right, I'm going to apply here, you know, for this in track 4 and this in track 1 and this in track 2, really common, but you have to make sure that each one can stand up on its own, just in case one gets funded and another one doesn't.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Okay. I think it's Rebecca is next. I don't know if it's last name, first name. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, so I have a suggestion for your presentation, because especially being a family childcare home, your definition of center is very broad and a little vague, because your definition at its broad and vague current standing, does appear that it includes family childcare. So there, you may want to add some, whether it's licensing requirements, commercial space, whatever, to that. And then secondly, if, for example, my county R&R does not apply under track 2, I believe it is, then there would be not a possibility for my family childcare home to be involved in this. Is that what I'm understanding?
First, thank you for the feedback. If you can, I mean, I hate to put the onus on you, but you know more about it than we do, of course, because you live it. So if you have more specifics on the definition for future rounds, I'd be super interested in hearing what you think would clarify that. And then Amy, what do you think about the county piece?
Yeah, hi, Rebecca. Thanks so much for the feedback and the question. Yeah, so for a family child care home to participate, it would be if an eligible firm DECTA org, such as a CCR&R agency, applies through track 3 and then includes you as a project partner in their application.
Yeah, and it would be anybody from that eligibility list as a technical assistance org. So that one does incorporate lots of different partners, and hopefully somebody you already know and are working.
Okay, so essentially if our county doesn't, then I'm SOL. However, fetchins, you're talking about things, family childcare education networks, they are part of the technical assistance umbrella. Is that my understanding?
Amy, are you familiar with that term?
I'm not. Thanks for sharing that. Do you know, are they like a nonprofit organization?
No, they are a family child care home education network. They have more, like, they will have state funding. They are formally going to be part of UPK. They're still family child care homes, but they kind of bridge the gap between centers, sort of. It's kind of hard to describe. There's not one available in my area. There are only 5 throughout the entire state.
Can I answer this?
Sure.
Yeah, so Fetchin is a system. It's funded by government, where they bridge the family childcare providers. They actually connect family childcare providers with the district, school district. So especially with the UPK TK coming up, so what will happen when the parents are going to drop the children in the school? If suppose the program is for 3 hours UPK, after 3 hours, the school will provide its own transportation and send those kids to the family childcare providers who are in the Fetchin system. So it is a network. So for rest of the day, the family childcare provider will provide the care to the child, and end of the day, parents come and pick the child from the family childcare provider. So this is how the district and the FCCs work together collaboratively with the government fund. That's why it's called Fetchin. Some counties has this system, some doesn't.
Okay, well, we can look into those organizations and see, and then we'll update. We'll do a frequently asked questions area on the website and update it there. And then we'll also, if it's okay with you, email you when we get that information and see if they're eligible, because maybe a county could incorporate others if they're interested. We can try to work that piece out on those partnerships. And then the goal is that it's a flexible partnership. So it's not just like if the county applies, but if any of these partners wanted to apply to support multiple sites in your area, whether they're a nonprofit organization or, we're going to look into the Fetchin one and see. But anyway, that's how it's designed right now. Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest concerns as a family childcare former teacher. Part of my credentials in nutrition, we have a backyard garden. We grow beans and corn and squash and peppers and everything else. Not being able to be involved in a program that is like this really seems like it would be something that is part of our curriculum and what we do. And so it just seems like a lot to bank on if the county is accepted, if it's not accepted. It just seems like a lot. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that note. And like I said, we want to make sure it's eligible to the people who are ready to apply, like yourself. And so we're going to look into this and try to figure out a way to make it happen. And if we're not, then in future rounds, we're going to fix it. So apologize if the timing on this one doesn't work out. Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay. Going over to Jacob P. Welcome, Jacob.
Hi, thanks for hosting the call.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. Happy to ask them separately if that's useful.
Mhm.
Both are fairly hyper-specific. So the first, do you guys have a definition of what qualifies as significant experience for the business history question in the Track 4 scorecard?
No.
Okay. Totally fair.
Yeah. Up to you. Yeah. Second one?
Okay, second one, the Track 4 application scorecard asks for an average annual gross cash farm income during the previous 3-year period. Am I correct that we're averaging 2020, 2021, and 2022's line 9, the gross income line on the Schedule F?
So each farm is going to pull that differently because each one we've found is organized separate, in their own way. So if that's what you feel like is most reflective, then I would use that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next, I have Thomas Staton. Welcome, Thomas.
Hi, yeah, the producer here looking for track 5 or track 4, sorry.
Yeah.
And we're I'm thinking in my mind there obviously needs to be some other track. And looking at how do we address the need for CDFA pre-written authorization to apply for potential land purchases, farmland purchases?
Yeah, that's a great question. Amy, are you able to talk that through right now, or should we follow that up with an email?
Sure, yeah, I'll do my best. Hi, Thomas. Thanks for that question. So, yeah, I think it's like, if I'm remembering correctly, it's the piece of the RFA under like allowable costs in track 4, and it says blah, blah, blah is allowable, like with prior written approval from the CDFA. Is that the right spot? Okay. Yeah, so you wouldn't have to send us anything like before applying. I think it's just like, you would just put it in your proposal, and then if you receive an award, that's where it would require the written approval to have that be in your agreement, your grant agreement budget. But you don't have to get like written approval from us to put it in your application.
Understood. To the purpose of it being written, is there something I should understand about that approval? What's separate or different than what it would be regularly for any other expense?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. Perhaps because it's like a significant purchase. I'm not sure the reasoning.
I would say the best thing you could do is send us as much info you have on it right like now. Because we have to take these sorts of things like through our legal office, and it takes time. So if you have some time and it's worth it for you on this trade-off of it being a maybe on the land purchase, then I would say send us what you have. We can start asking questions on our end, and then you keep filling out the app. But I mean, I just acknowledge that that's totally a time and research and effort trade-off. We're doing our best to incorporate land access and purchasing land into our kind of normal operating procedures at CDFA, but we're still new to it. So, yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? No, you're good. Okay. Next, I have Miriam. Welcome, Miriam.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I have a question. First, I should thank you for presenting this Zoom meeting. Then my question is, as a family childcare provider, you said we need a partner to apply for this program. So I don't know, Beanstalk as a food program can be used as a partner to apply for this program?
Are they a nonprofit organization?
It's Beanstalk is a childcare food program that provide food and meal for family childcare providers. So I don't know, this can be seen as an organization that can be applied for this program, for this grant.
I'm not exactly sure. So I think we'll have to research that and email you back. We got to look at each type of partner. There's so many different options out there in the world, so we couldn't really prep each one in advance, but we'll look into Beanstalk.
They are
Yes.
they are non-profit organizations, and it is in every county, like Coco Kids in Alameda County.
Yeah,
And San
so
Francisco
if
has
they're a
its own.
nonprofit, then they could be the lead applicant and write in all these centers that they work with. That would be great. And then you could just work with them on the application, and they could come to a Q&A. They could email us questions. We're happy to help in all of those ways.
So you mean if this organization is considered as a partner, so how should we ask them for applying to this program?
However you feel is best. Call, text, email, any way that you feel like you can communicate the info to them. You might send them a link to our information session and ask if they would be willing to partner on an application for track 3. I think that's been a pretty common way that we've seen schools, like farms and schools, work together. So it could be the same one working with a nonprofit partner like Beanstalk.
Okay, so you mean we should call them and ask for track 3, and then they will process with the application. And if it's okay, no problem. I don't know how much will be the grant for this track 3 if we apply.
Amy, do you know the number off the top of your head?
Yeah,
Sorry?
the the award amount range for track 3 is 50,000 to 200,000.
1,500, you said?
50,000. Yeah,
Okay.
to 200,000.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to help. Okay, next I have Chan. Hi, Chan.
Hello, thanks for the Q&A. I have a couple of questions. I'm a small daycare in the county of Contra Costa, and I mainly service subsidy children through Coco Kids, trying to see if you're familiar with that. They are a nonprofit, so I was just wondering, nonprofit referral service. So I was just wondering if they would be considered a partner that I could partner with.
Yeah, I think so. If they're a nonprofit, like you said, Amy, what do you think?
Yeah, sounds like it. If they're a nonprofit organization and they provide support to EC providers like family childcare homes or childcare centers, then they could apply to track 3.
Okay, so that's someone that I'm understanding that I can partner with. Then I have another question.
Yeah.
How long would you have to continue to be in to be a daycare provider if I'm accepted for the grant? How long would I have to still stay in business after applying and being accepted?
That's a good question. I mean, my gut says the whole time. Because if we're setting up the agreement with your business and then the business dissolves, then we wouldn't be able to continue the agreement. So that's like my gut. But if the grant is through the nonprofit, as long as the nonprofit is around, they could work out the timing. If you have a more specific sense, I would love, I think, for you to email what you think your timing will be. And, if you get the whole project done beforehand, then, while you're still in business, then that's really all we can.
Okay, so when you say project, what is an example of a project?
Let's say, it has to be a procurement and education project together. So let's say you were gonna build a school garden and work with the kids in the garden, and then buy local food that you're also growing in the garden, something like that. Farmers market tours, maybe something like that with kids. I don't know, just kind of anything like that. So that would just have to happen during your project duration. And then, then you're done. Yeah. The projects only last as long as they last.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I myself plan to be in business for a while. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming, like some people, you know, like maybe get a grant or whatever and then stop 3 or 4 years afterwards. So
Right.
would that monies have to be paid back or what?
Yeah, I mean, if you're, let me think of how to say this. I mean, you're going to propose a project to us that will have certain months, right? And you're going to say it's happening from October, this year to October next year. Anything that happens within that timeline, I mean, you can spend it, you bill it and everything. You can apply for an extension if you need more time to implement it. But if you have to like kind of tap out of the project and you go, hey, I don't actually have time to do this, then the money does get returned. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate your answers.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Okay, Lainey Klein King, welcome. How you doing?
Great. How are you, Nick? Good.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about ECE today.
Yes, a lot about track 3 today. My question is actually one that a few of us had in the chat, so hopefully this will answer it for everybody. And it was about track 2 and specifically about what's meant by capacity building. So I saw that it was written that it means coaching, training, educating educators. Our model is that when we're in schools, we actually teach farm to school education with certificated classroom teachers present. So one of my first questions is just how long is allowed in terms of training if you have an educator, a farm to school educator kind of modeling for a classroom teacher? And that, I don't know if that's a question you guys can answer, but I think we just get into a little bit of a gray area of like, are we paying for like a nonprofit garden educator, which is what we were doing in track 1 with MDUSD, or is it considered training as well?
Right. It's a great question. And it's hard, like, where do you draw that line? What we say is, it's up to you to decide in your project on what people need on that duration. Because some people want to see you deliver 5 lessons and then they're okay co-teaching that 6th lesson. And other teachers might need, more or less. So it might be something that you can work out where there's like an assessment or something like that you're building it so that you can develop your timeline maybe. But I think as long as there is the plan that it's not just done for the teacher and the teacher is going to be sitting on their phone in the corner or doing emails or whatever, but they're actively being empowered and getting agency to be able to deliver these lessons on their own in the future, even if it's not to the exact same capacity, but that they're confident in taking on some of that work themselves. Because what we found is, the schools say yes as long as it's free. And then as soon as that grant is gone, the capacity is gone. And so we're really trying to make sure that within track 2, we're training these school districts to take it on and to find the value and gain the skills that they need to continue.
Absolutely. And my second quick question is just, would infrastructure capacity building be eligible? Because a lot of these school sites don't really have gardens to teach farm to school in. So would building that out also be considered a track 2 eligible activity?
I want to confirm that. I mean, Amy, any sort of infrastructure like that would be allowable in track 2, correct?
Yeah, hi, Lainey. Yeah, in general, infrastructure is an allowable cost in all 4 tracks.
So as long as you fit it into your project and in the budget, you just explain, here's why we need the infrastructure and here's how it's going to help build capacity for the project. I think that's great.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Victoria, hello. Welcome.
Hello. I had a question about the education part. So we can include school to farm education modules for our staff in this project. Is that correct?
Amy, can you answer that one? My internet cut out.
Sure. Hi, Victoria. Is this for track 1 or track 3?
Track 3.
Track 3? Okay. Yeah, so in track 3, it would be an allowable cost to use funds to provide professional development related to farm DEC or farm DEC professional development to staff.
And would we have to find that type of training on our own, or you will have some kind of trainings that we can participate in? Where do we look for something like that?
Great question. Our team includes regional staff members throughout the state who are available during the project implementation period to support grantees with project implementation. So that could include something like finding curriculum or things like that to support the project.
So when we're writing this application, can we contact these consultants to see what curriculum options are available? And that way we would know what the costs are involved. That way we can apply these costs towards our project application.
That's a great question. I'm going to pass that one back to Nick.
Yeah, you should definitely check it out. See what materials you like. See if anybody, see who you trust.
So do we just email the same email address for information on these consultants and trainings?
I mean, it'll be up to you to decide what's best for your kids and, your community that you're working with. And then if there's consultants or people out there in the world that you find online or locally and you want to reach out to them, yeah, for sure, reach out to them.
You just said that you have on your staff that you have consultants, or I'm not sure what was the other word.
Oh, sorry. We have a regional team. So,
yeah.
Regional team that's on the call. Hi, activate regional team powers. If we can compile some ECE resources and send them out, but there's like a million things online. And so I don't think we'll have time to vet every single one.
Right.
So I would say it's probably going to be most effective for you to just do your research and see if there's something you like and go with that.
And then include that in our project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you could say we're going to use this curriculum, in the application, in the narrative, you'd say, oh yeah, we're going to use this curriculum. And you could just hyperlink to it or something like that.
And we can reach out to the regional team to give us some samples. Is that correct?
Yeah. So on our webpage, it has a meet the staff, about the staff or something like that. And we'll put that link in the chat. And then you can send that, send people a note, and then we'll see what resources we could gather. You could also just email our cafarmtoschool@cdfa.ca.gov inbox, and we'll respond there too.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, hi, Brian. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity here.
Yeah.
2 questions. The first one is we have a pretty small school district. We're pretty rural here in Lassen County. We have 190 students. So when we did our funding multiplier, it comes out to 200,000. Is that the most that we could apply for is 200,000?
Yeah, that's right. So if your formula, what's the answer to a multiplication question?
It's like $15 times 190. It just doesn't come out to anything
yeah,
close.
whatever that number is. Yeah, if it's less than 200K, then we just ask you to apply for 200.
Okay. And then the second part too is on number question 22, when they're talking about the procurement of goods from different suppliers.
Yeah.
It does say that our biggest project is we're trying to get a greenhouse and start a farm here at the school. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like we don't qualify for options 2 or goal 2, 3, and 4. If I don't answer those, I'm going to lose out on those points. So is there any way I can not put not applicable and answer those questions on what we want to do in the future so we can get those points? Or am I just kind of out of luck with 15 points?
It's an interesting question. I think if it's going to be part of this project and it's going to be I think just do your best to do what you think you should put.
Okay. I mean, we're very
yeah.
And we don't have a lot of resources for pulling from veterans and from
right.
those small businesses, but we can definitely do some research and find out who they are. And when we do find out, so that's kind of what I want to portray, but I don't want to put NA and just lose out on points.
Right. I think if it's going to be part of your project work plan to do that research, then I think definitely put that in the application. So I would include it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Okay, Justine, you're our last hand. And I'm excited you wanted to speak because I saw your comments in the chat. So welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
My big questions to you, I have three, okay? We know FCC is not included in this. So we would have to, at all the providers that are on here, you would have to directly partner with this sponsorship. You would have to get a sponsor. Now, for those that fill out applications, I'm gonna tell you what happened to them in the past. They did the applications, they turned it in and everything. And then when the sponsor received the money, they never received nothing. So my question to you is, how are you going to hold accountability, and how are you going to know how much the provider is to receive from those agencies once they receive the funds? Or are we just not going to hold them accountable and lose the money? That's my first question.
Yeah, you want me to answer it? You want to do all three at once?
Go on, ask that and I'll answer that.
So there's different ways that we hold people accountable, but number one, I mean, we could write it into the scope of work of the agreement and mandate it right up top. You know, so they could include it in their budget of the application that says we're giving this much money to our partners, and then that would be in their agreement, and then everything we're doing is in alignment with that written agreement. And if they're not moving forward in their grant, then they don't get any money from us. Yeah.
Okay. My second question is this: can a provider, a family child care provider, can they partner with more than one agency if the agency is willing to take them, or it just has to be one specific agency?
Oh, that's a good question. So let's say like a couple different agencies, like you work with them and they felt comfortable, like, okay, we're going to write them into this one and you're going to be written into another one. I'm not sure. Amy, what do you think on that? Is that would that be allowable for mini grant?
Yes. So across all 4 tracks and in general in the grant program, entities can be project partners as many times as their partners. So the restriction is on the lead, like a lead applicant can only apply once to the grant program in this round. But a project partner can be a partner, you know, a proposed project partner in as many applications as that happens in. The thing to keep in mind is that in those applications, they can't be duplicative. So it couldn't be that like the 2 different applications where the same entity is a partner, that those 2 applications are like proposing to fund the exact same thing for that partner. It would have to be like that it's proposing different things. They can complement each other, but it just couldn't be like 2 applications that are proposing to fund the exact same cost for the exact same partner. So that would be the only thing, and just an important thing to keep in mind with that. But yeah, there aren't restrictions on how many times you can be written in as a project partner in an application.
Okay, and my understanding is each project partner could only have 2 individuals, correct? So with that being said, I kind of, this is more direct to you guys. I want to know who was on that committee to create that, because I didn't like the fact that you guys included family, friends, and neighbor, and you guys excluded the licensed providers. I represent both, but I'm really hurt with that because of the fact that I see it like these are people that dedicated their life to this. So I want to know who was on the committee that made these decisions, and maybe my fellow providers here that are licensed or centers, or even my school district representatives that are on here. All of you guys need to get involved and come out and join these committees if they have the open seat. So how can they join this committee for future funding?
Yeah, well, first, I want to clarify. So Amy, is it that they have to have only 2 organizations as partners, or at least 2?
At least 2.
So they could have more than 2 partners. So there could be infinite there if they really wanted to. And then second, we absolutely hear you on how the rules are made. We had an interagency group where we met with, I mean, who's the ECD agency? CDSS, social services, who else? CDPH. Like we had an interagency group where we tried to come up with best definitions and eligibility. And then we did public comment period. So anybody from the public could send in notes to us to clarify eligibility and award amounts and all of that sort of thing. So first things are just like us trying our best to develop eligibility. And then after that, it goes out to the public for folks to give us feedback and tell us what we missed and to help us improve the definitions for eligibility or future rounds. And so it's not really like a closed committee or a behind closed doors thing. We had a public comment period right before we released the RFA, and we absolutely hear you and are going to update in future rounds. Unfortunately, we can't change this round because the process is already launched. But in future rounds, it's definitely something we want to talk through and receive more public comment on. Because the ECE space is a universe. There's so many different types of organizations, so many different types of partners. So the more we can hear back from folks, the better. Yeah. Thank you, Justine.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys and all you're doing for all of us, because this really is impactful for our communities. And
Yeah.
we know our industry is changing even at the school districts. And we really need your support. And we need to continue these fundings so that way we get more to our community to better our children.
Yeah,
And this
we're
will
right there
help
with
them.
you.
Thank you very much.
We're right there with you. Thank you so much for the notes and the thoughts and helping us improve each and every year. And you know, it's a big game. So thank you all. Okay, last hand. We had one more. It's the non-Pamela Nansley. It's Lori Davis, incognito. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Hi, Lori.
I don't know how that happened. Pamela sent me the link and I guess it logged in as her.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, really quickly. First, thank you, you guys, for holding this. I always love working with you guys. Track 1, my school district wants to know if they apply, if they can sub the work to our nonprofit, which I think you said yes, because they don't have the capacity or the knowledge to do what we do for them. So that was their question.
Yeah, that would be totally allowable. They can subcontract out to whoever they want, and they just got to write it in the plan. And, you know, that there's a note in there. I know you had a question on, you know, you get extra points in the app if you're incorporating. Amy, what's the exact term for teachers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are extra points in the track 1 application for applications that will engage students or projects that will engage students in hands-on food education led by credentialed public school educators. It's not a requirement, but there are points available for it.
Correct. So it's not a requirement. So if they want to sub it out to you, that's totally okay.
Okay, and then also their other question was, because I had a meeting with them this morning.
Yeah.
When you say expand existing farm to school programs, can we start slowly or do we need to go district wide?
You can totally start slowly. Whatever you guys think is best.
Okay, yeah, because they were worried that they would have to expand it to the whole district, and we want to go school by school.
Yeah, that's totally okay.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, the question about the credentialed teachers, but I mean, we have credentialed teachers with us every time we teach a lesson, but that doesn't count, right? They have to be actually leading the lesson.
I mean, if they're participants in the lesson, it's different. If they're going to lead, if they're going to co-teach, if they're going to help plan, you know, the goal is that the teachers are understanding the value, are engaged in the process, and are gaining some skills and leveraging all of their, you know, their credential, their education, to make sure we're hitting standards and doing all of that work.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Okay, I'm going to go through the chat now. I don't see any more hands. So a lot of it is just ECE eligibility, and I think we went through all of those. So thank you, folks, for moving from the chat to the hands. I see it. I'm at 1:20 p.m. So in the chat, so I'll be scrolling through. From Vaher, we are a TA provider nonprofit. We have multiple partner producers, but not sure how to get school district authority partners. How do we go at getting those partners? Va, if you're still on, I don't know if you are, but please email us and we can help connect you to the schools in your area and would be so happy to do that. Rosa is next. I see your question as a nonprofit. Is there a limit to those listed in the RFA? I'm not exactly sure what that means. So Rosa, are you still on? I don't see, oh, there's 3 pages of faces. No, Rosa, I don't see. Okay. So we'll keep going, but if you could clarify that question, that'd be fantastic. Nicole had the question on building capacity that Lainey brought to the group. So thank you, Lainey. Jenny had a question on the informational webinar, and that information is on our webpage. So the question is, we were not able to log into the informational webinar. Where can we find those slides and recordings? So that information is on our webpage, on the grant webpage that we looked at earlier. Michelle Oppen had the next question from Oakland Unified about, and Michelle, we have an email coming to you today that answers your question. But for track 1, if we are a school district that serves pre-K students and young adult students through special education, can they include students from those populations in our enrollment count to determine our funding amount? So basically capture additional kids to increase the funding formula. And we're going to send a response over email because that one's so specific. Okay, Oscar had a question that we covered with Justine. And then I had a question come in a direct message. I can't see the name, Madeline, I think Madeline maybe, but it says, 1, will you be considering application for grants from organizations that applied in the past? Yes, definitely. If you have applied in the past, you can still apply. If you have a current grant with us, you can still apply. And just there's some guidance in the RFA to follow and some questions in the application about that. But that's all in there. So that should be great. 2, will you be offering more recipients than last year? Yes, we project this year to have about 200 something successful applicants and recipients. Last year we had 120. So up all the way to 200. It's kind of our estimate right now. We have to see how much money people apply for and then look at those scores. But 200, 240, somewhere in there, I think could happen. And then last, number 3 is, can you share timeline for funds? That's also on the webpage. It has an estimate. We're estimating projects will start October 2024. So that's what we suggest people utilize. Okay, we're to 125. We're catching up. Nicole, yeah.
Wait,
oh yeah, hi Madeline, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So for the timeline, I wanted to know, I had saw that it started October, November. Is that for a year? And I'm asking the other part, maybe it didn't go through, is I'm asking if there's ability for staggering that funding or shifting it a bit, just in case I do apply for another grant, which has a similar time frame. So I'm just curious if I get lucky and I get both of them, how that goes if they have a similar time frame for spending.
So you get to choose what your project spending timeline is in the application. So you get to choose, as long as it's within that window, you can determine when you want it to start and end.
Oh, okay.
So that part is up to you. And then we also offer revisions during the application period. So let's say that you put, the full timeline here, and then it turns out, oh, I actually need to start 4 months later. Then we could do a revision for you also. As long as kind of the heart of the project stays the same, then, we can make edits.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. Happy to help. Okay, next is Nicole at 125. Hi, Nicole, if you're still on. You asked the question, the word especially is used throughout the eligibility requirements. For example, it says, especially programs that are standards aligned, culturally relevant, incorporate credentialed teachers, public school educators, et cetera, et cetera. Are these requirements or just desired elements? Those are just desired elements. So basically we have like what's required is, it'll say in the application that that's required. And then it's just add on of those extra things, kind of checking the list there. It used to be something just on the grant design side where it would be like, tell us about your project. And then everything would be in one big text box. And some people would just miss those elements. So what we've done instead is we try to separate them out so everybody sees each element and can stack those points and make sure they're answering each question fully. Because it's a lot to have to fill out a grant. Yeah. Okay. Jack A had a question on eligibility for ECE. So hopefully we've answered that. Denise Who pays the taxes? Okay, Denise asked a question, who pays the taxes on the mini grants if my ECE program would work with an in-home daycare? That's a good question. And we can't necessarily answer that because each organization is incorporated differently. So we would just recommend that you talk with your partners. And if you want to include an accountant as an allowable cost to help you navigate the taxes and all of that stuff, then we would encourage you to incorporate that expertise into your project. Yeah. Common question that we get, and it's just really hard. We're not allowed to provide tax info because we don't know what each specific situation incurs. Okay. Cecily Frost had a question. Would infrastructure such as a kitchen add-on to a preschool, would that be allowed? Yeah. As Amy said earlier, infrastructure and equipment is allowed across all 4 tracks. You just have to explain in the application how that kitchen addition is valuable to your farm to school project. And then that would be allowed, yeah. Okay, next, Victoria asked, will you be providing school to farm training opportunities for staff that we can use and include in our application? We have like a quarterly community of practice call. So I wouldn't rely on us to provide in-depth training as part of your project. That would be my recommendation. Amy, anything else to add on that front? No. So like you could mention it maybe that you'll be aligning trainings and with CDFA staff, just if that's going to be part of your project. You know, we're so happy to provide that technical assistance in the field and share resources with folks. You know, so you can include that. But I think if you wanted to incorporate a more robust staff training, I would build that into your project. And you can always look at the scorecard to make sure you're checking all the boxes on that front. Okay, and then a note from Rebecca, we absolutely hear you, and Justine, that's great. On how do we find out who received the funding and the amount received, I think this has to go along with making sure that people are getting the funding out the door. Everything that we do will be publicly announced and publicly available on our webpage. So every awarded project will be announced there with a project description and who the project partners are and all of that sort of thing. We'll also send out a newsletter and a press release that has all of that information also, or at least links to it. Okay, Jackie had another question on eligibility, and then we answered the question on Beanstalk organization. Okay, and then Denise Alioto. Denise, I don't know if you're still on or if we answered this question, I can't remember. But Denise is the owner of 2 0 to 5 childcare centers in Chico, currently providing produce from home garden, orchard and garden. While applying to track 3, would I include myself as a partner to the school, or could I just list my land as the farm partnering with my schools? This is a good question. Amy, do we have those same rules in track 3 as we do in the other tracks? And could you explain them so that I could take a drink of water? I feel like I'm just reading an audiobook to everyone right now.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Denise. Great question. So in both track 1 and track 3, in the section of the application, that's the procurement work plan and budget section. I think it's like question 22, something like that. There are 4 project goals you could select. The first one is required. That's, let me read that one. So the first one is required in both track 1 and 3. It says our proposed project will increase procurement of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed food for incorporation into school meals. And there, we have a note that in this grant program, the term food producers does not include school operated gardens or school operated farms, or similarly like ECE operated gardens or ECE operated farms. However, it does include third parties such as individual contractors or nonprofit organizations that operate a farm on school property. So if your proposed project in either track 1 or track 3 will procure California grown or produced whole or minimally processed food for meals from school operated gardens or farms only, then you would absolutely be eligible to select the required goal number 1, but you wouldn't be eligible to select the other 3 optional project goals that talk about procuring from food producers. So it would depend, for your question, it would depend on kind of how the farm or garden is structured. If it's being operated by the same entity that's applying for the grant, then you would be eligible to select that required goal number 1 in question 22, but not the other 3. But if the operator of that farm or garden is an individual or a nonprofit organization contracting with the entity that's applying for the grant, then they would be considered in the grant program a food producer, and could potentially be part of the other 3 optional goals. So that was a lot of words. I hope that was helpful, but let us know if not.
I think the dumbed down version that's less technical is if you're buying it from yourself, no. You know, if you're buying it from yourself, no. We're trying to help farms. It's farm to school, not self to school. So find some farms, buy from them. If it's a separate entity that's operating the farm, then that's considered a farm. So let us know if you have more questions. You can email us. Those ones are always sticky and tricky based on how you're incorporated and all of that. Okay, next, we have a question from Robert. Hi again, Robert. What factors determine the amount of funding an applicant can request? And are there different tiers or categories based on project scope or impact for track 4, but really any track? So track 1 is the only one with a funding formula. The other tracks, it's just dependent on the applicant. How much do you need to implement the project that you're proposing? So we just recommend reflection on that and think through what do you actually need to implement your proposed project and go with that number. If you want to do a small thing and it's not the total, you know, high-end award amount, that's okay. It's really up to you to determine it. Okay, and then Justine had the question on who came up with these guidelines, and we talked that through. Justine, just know we're absolutely going to reach out to you when we come up with the next guidelines. You're now on the committee. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, and then Mabel had one, our daycare home providers that's serving children from the Head Start program and Family Network eligible. I think at this point, just email us that question and we'll reach back out to you. There's so many specific different instances with ECE that we'll have to follow up individually. Okay, 156. We're almost there, folks. I know we're at 221, so thank you for staying on extra to hear all these questions. At 156, Rachel in the chat. Thank you, Rachel. Put our regional staff contact page so people can find that if you want to reach out to your regional partner, regional staff member, and learn more about them. You can. Lainey, thank you for your kind words. Rebecca, how do you extrapolate out to apply for a mini grant? What I would recommend, Rebecca, for this ECE project, if you're looking for a partner, is to just work with your partner organization in the application period. And they could just write you in as a subcontractor or as a partner. Anything like that would be fine. Otherwise, if you want to participate more and to see which of your regional partners, county partners, or anybody else is going to apply to run a mini grant program, then we will announce that and help promote those mini grant opportunities that our grantees receive. So let's say a county office is applying and they're going to do a mini grant program. When they open that mini grant, we will absolutely help promote that opportunity so that as many people as possible know about it. Okay, now I'm going to pause there because I see a new hand. Hi, Jason.
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I too have learned a lot about early childcare today.
Yeah, it's really is its own universe and so diverse. So yeah, we're grateful for everyone who's on here.
I have a question. I understand the CDFA requires one grant submission per entity. Is that what is driving ANR telling us that they will only submit one grant, or would you accept multiple from ANR, or is ANR just trying to control 52 counties all submitting some kind of a grant?
Great question. I am not sure what ANR is doing. So I would say, we would accept each individual and like county level as their own thing.
Yeah.
Each operates their own thing. So that's what we would do. If they wanted to do one overarching one, then that is.
But an overarching one would be a combination of counties if there is enough overlap that it makes sense to put them together. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really up to you guys to figure out. I know in the past we've talked, and it's hard because not every county is even has the capacity or interest in doing it.
Yeah.
And so, it might make sense for them organizationally, just say, hey, let's just do one and we'll give it out to the different counties who's interested.
Gotcha.
And then
Okay.
that way there's only one admin amount, instead of each one, taking 30% or whatever.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I had asked a few people and nobody seemed to know whose rule it was. So that helps.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I also wanted to jump in for this one. Kendra emailed the inbox yesterday to clarify this as well. So I think they're looking for that guidance. So we'll follow up with email to clarify also.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Fingers
Rachel.
crossed, if they got 2 or 3 good ones, they'll bless them to move on.
They're going to run their own grant program and then they'll score them and then send them to us. Okay. Thank you. Jason. All right.
Nick, can I just jump in? Sorry. Okay. I just, 2 questions in the chat I just wanted to address really quickly. One is we are interested in applying for the Farm to School Incubator Grant Program under Track 3. Would you please provide me with resources on what to include in the grant proposal and review criteria? Thank you very much. That's a great question. I'm going to put in the chat from our website, there's a PDF of the Track 3 application questions and review criteria. So I'll put that in the chat if you'd like to take a look. And then another question was about where do I find allowable and unallowable project costs for Track 3? So I'm also going to put a link into the chat to the section of the RFA where you can find that information. It starts on page 28 of the RFA. So I'll put both of those links in the chat.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, and those were the next ones that were on the list. And Rebecca, you had a note on CDSS and making it clear, and no, unfortunately, no. So, that's something we'll continue working through. But thank you from Jenny. You're welcome, Jenny. Leonella Love, what email address can we contact you? And that's the cafarmtoschool@cdfa.ca.gov email address. Okay, and then Jason, your question was there. Justine, yes, it's going to be awesome. We're so excited for this year having extra funds. And then Denise, am I able to use my land as a primary food source and also apply funds towards children's gardens at my schools? It depends on how you're incorporated. So if you're able to email us, Denise, on your question, if you could outline a little bit more information about, is the farm its own business? And then are the centers separate from that? Just let us know in that email, and then we can follow up with more specific detail. Yeah. Yeah, and Rebecca, we totally hear your comment here. As a credentialed teacher in social science and family and consumer sciences, including nutrition and food prep, that now operates a FCCH with a farm to fork and composting program with a growing food component, is discouraging to have to rely on the county R&R office to apply instead of being able to apply ourselves. Approximately 10,481 licensed centers in California and 25,205 licensed FCCHs. Totally hear it, and we'll continue working that out in future rounds, and also trying to figure out if there's other types of partners that maybe could work for you. It's not just the county. Nonprofits are eligible, and everybody else in that technical assistance one. So hopefully we can provide support in recruiting some of those other types of partners maybe that could help with eligibility. We totally understand the frustration, and like I said, each year really work to hear and improve the grant. Okay, Kenneth had a note. As a small scale farm, I appreciate that there's Track 4 specifically for producers. Thank you. Thank you, Kenneth. We're super excited about it, and just really glad. So let us know if you have questions. And then Justine just sent your info. Thank you, Justine. Okay, Denise has one. I think Denise, just email us. We'll set up all the info. There's a lot of different angles there. Okay, Kenneth. Oh, that's about UCANR that we talked about with Jason. All right. Okay, we've done it, folks. We've done it. That's everyone. We're up to date in the chat. I can't believe this many people stayed on this whole time. It's wild to me. And what we would really encourage everyone to do is just get into your applications and start working on it. And when you get stuck, reach out and we can be there. You know, the best thing is learn by doing and getting through it. And thank you, Rebecca. I know we love it. And so making sure that everyone's eligible and ready to apply. We love that. Okay, Linda asked, will there be a recording of this meeting? Yes, for sure. We record them and we post them online. So everything on here, like we do, it's as transparent as possible. And, you know, accountability goes for us as well as for the grantees. So thank you, Rebecca and Justine and all the ECE folks who are on here for helping give us good feedback also. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the recording. And then we have another session actually in 30 minutes. So, you know, if you didn't get enough, you could come back for more on that if you want to. And then more on the webpage, like we said. Okay, thanks, y'all. Thank you, everyone.